Morning on my end, Andrew. I'm with Andrew Palmer here today from Bertha.ai, and we're going to talk a bit about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and opportunities in WordPress product markets and development with AI. Andrew, can you give us a little background on your history with WordPress and how you got into what made AI the technology you wanted to jump into?
Well, I've been, my name's Andrew Palmer, Bertha.ai. Thanks, Dan, for having me. I really appreciate it. And AI is the future as far as I'm concerned. The way I got into WordPress was I was a Joomla guy. Another guy said, you've really got to go into WordPress because Joomla had some problems on version 1. That's how long I've been alive in the web, quite a while. Moved to WordPress was great, always, and lots of developers and creatives out there are going to say this is the same. Always, we're having problems with getting and gathering content for our customers. So, after building, I don't know, 1,500, 2,000 websites throughout our career in the last 20 years, maybe even more. I mean, I've lost count how many websites we've built, especially one-page websites, like, hundreds and hundreds. And getting the content together and learning how to write copy for clients just to give them a head start, so I started charging for copywriting. And then my friend and colleague, Vito Peleg, who started WP Feedback, which is now Atarim, gave me a call and said, look, can we talk about AI? I want to integrate AI into Atarim, into the notes stuff so that people can actually generate content while they're writing notes. And I said, yeah, well, why don't we just expand that through to the whole of WordPress? I've got a development team. He was too busy to do it with Atarim and all the expansion that they're doing, which is great. So we got on with our development team May last year, which is now May 2022. Did some research, looked around. Vito wrote some prompts, I wrote some prompts, and we thought, wow, this really works. So as Atarim works on the front end of a website, we thought, well, we've got experience with Divi, with Elementor, with WordPress, all these plugins, Builder, Beaver Builder, all the plugins that are out there. And it's kind of front end editing. So we needed to make Bertha work on front end editing. So you can literally just click into a section on your Divi website or your Elementor website, and you can ask Bertha to generate any amount of content on any amount of subjects. And we've moved on a bit as well. So we've got, I don't know, 30 odd modules that you've got unique propositions. We've now, from next week, we'll have our own ChatGPT-3 version of Bertha as well, which is really cool. And we're moving on to obviously make Bertha everywhere, which is through our Chrome extension, which will be released probably by the end of the month now. It's been delayed a month or so, Christmas holidays, all that kind of stuff. But the whole point is, this isn't really to advertise Bertha. We're a layer on top of OpenAI. Let's be quite open about that. We built an application called Bertha.ai on top of OpenAI. Then OpenAI, about 3-4 weeks ago, kicked everybody in the shins that were layer application guys like us, and saying they brought out GPT-3, so chat, basically. It's always been GPT-3, but they brought out the chat, which is fantastic, and started this massive viral campaign, which is probably in the old days when I was in advertising and everything in the early 80s and 90s, it was called a guerrilla marketing campaign. It's been a phenomenal marketing campaign, picking up 1 million or so users over the last 3 or 4 weeks, which is great. We're all jealous of that. Let's get 1 million users using our stuff. We're not jealous of the costs because 1 million users using GPT chat every day is costing some bunts. So that's why they're going out there and getting some more money off other people. The benefits of AI, let's get onto that, are that it's an ideation facility. So it helps you with ideas. We all run out of ideas sometime. It helps you gather content from customers. So if you're building a website, for instance, why we put it into WordPress, there's 455 million plus WordPress websites out there. They're pretty much the same layout. It's all a U shape. You've got the header, you've got the sidebars, you've got the footer, whatever it may be. But the differentiator is the little graphics that you put in there, the go-to text, the calls to action, the explanations of what you as a service provider provide. And where Bertha.ai and other AI systems can help with that is they can give you strong calls to action. They can give you relevant text in a very short period of time. So normally when you're looking about copywriting a website, you're looking maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks. So that's a long time in your production schedule. Customers generally, say you're a plumber, they don't know how to write about what they're doing. They know what they're doing, obviously, because they're professionals, but when you say to them, I need content, they go, what do you mean?
Exactly.
They literally go, what do you mean?
The classic
So
holdup.
imagine being able to, if you're a niche and you're doing plumbers or electricians or contractors or whatever, being able to write that content for them and then saying, let's correct that, let's edit that, let's make it more you, personalize it to you, but you've got the bulk of the information there, which is really, really cool. And that's where AI is really going to help us, or generative AI for text. Right. Now then, we've got images. So I don't want to go through the stock images or Unsplash or Pixels or wherever you're going to go and get them. And I'm worried about copyright. You know, we know that there are, I call them ambulance chaser copyright litigators that go out and say, you use this 50 by 50 pixel image on your website 3 years ago, you now owe us $20,000, you know, because it wasn't licensed, and there you go. So with generative AI, you can make images in whatever you like. If you can describe an image, you can make that image. That then has no copyright, basically, because it's generative AI. It's been made from whatever is out there on the ether, from scraping other people's descriptions of images. And, you know, you can use it at will, or you can amend it at will. So chuck it into Photoshop, make it your own, all those kind of things. So it's basically allowing you to increase your productivity as a web developer, but also provide content to your web developer if you are a normal person, let's say. There's going to be a lot of giggling out there because web developers definitely aren't normal. We know that, you know, but it's going to help you increase your productivity. There's no doubt about it.
Right. Yeah. The problem of getting content to a new site and a lot of content marketing oriented projects. That's just, I don't think I ever saw a client who delivered that on time, or it's definitely, even if you have a very well put together organization with a lot of people and the ability to do that, it's just writing is tough and editing is tough and all kinds of things come out, and you know that often has been a pain point in that kind of agency or freelancer client relationship there. So it basically, using something like ChatGPT or Bertha equipped with that could give you the first crack at a bunch of early draft content for a client. Then how good is the result from that? What's the in my testing of playing around with ChatGPT, it seems like there are certain subject areas where it's really good and others not so much. It depends on how specialistic you want to go. How have you dealt with that? If you're doing everything from like plumbers to small businesses to maybe something quite technical, if you were to have Bertha explain how to Bertha.ai and give us a selling proposition and all of that, are there gaps in the knowledge data bank of
definitely
these?
If you think you go to school for a number of years, so let's say 15, 18 years, you go to school, maybe 22 years if you're, you know, six years, let's say you leave college at 25 and you've got your degree. And then I ask you to explain a concept that you had, or you did a thesis 5 years ago, and you try to give me a synopsis of that thesis that you wrote. Your memory, each time you tell that story, is going to be different. You're going to miss out some information. And sometimes it's going to be crucial information. When you think that currently OpenAI has only scraped 10% of the web, you're going to get some missing information, and you're going to get some misinformation. So that's why we've always said that Bertha.ai is a writing assistant. You're the editor, right? So you think of it as a young journalist that's come in or an intern journalist, and you've asked them to write a story on X. Let's say today I had a client meeting talking about Bertha. They're a Bertha user, but they wanted to know how to use it better, which is great. Their specialist subject is palette racking, so I took the person through how to ask the right questions to get the right information. So there's a learning curve there as well. So GPT-3 and chat and Bertha won't, and other AI engines won't solve your copywriting issues if you don't know the right question to ask. So it's just like iRobot. If you've ever seen iRobot, the guy stands up and says, "I'm not programmed to answer that question. Ask it in a different way."
Right.
That's the way we've got to treat AI. Because even me, if I explained what I know about Liquid Web, which is a fair amount really, because I've studied it and I know people that work there, and I know the investment company that's invested a lot of money in it. I don't know how much money. I could make a guess, but that's it. I would be making a guess, but I know in general terms what Liquid Web is. I know you've got 150,000 clients, on the hosting side. I know that you buy plugins and all that kind of stuff, but my information will have gaps in it. So my job is to get the bulk of that information there, and then do a little bit of fact checking. Specifically, if you're looking at legal, I saw on Twitter the other day, one guy said, "Oh, Chat GPT helped me write terms and conditions for my website." Well, did it really? Because it's only goes up to 2021, so there might have been another few hundred laws. You know what our legislators are like; they put a new law out every second. So there could have been a law on that they've missed, and they've just put it straight out of GPT-3, which is just inadvisable. So it's always better to get the bulk of the content there, so that you've got the words that search engines need to show that you've got good content. Edit it around your own personality and your own truth, let's say, and then publish it. And then it will be as good, if not better, than anybody else's content out there. And you'll be producing more of it.
Sure.
And that's
that's kind of been my experience with it so far, just for the last couple of weeks. It's a different thing to play an editorial role when you're thinking you do is different. There's it's hard to go from a blank page to some fully developed writing, and it's always nice to have someone at whatever level of ability who knows the subject generally enough to give you something you can fact check and give you something that you can start working on. So that seems a very, very basic and useful thing to bring into a lot of different fields. But we're limited by what it knows and the pool of information that's available there. That was something that Matt Mullenweg talked about, or hinted at. It seemed very important to him in the state of the word to see the opportunity in WordPress for connecting it more deeply with Openverse and getting our photos, which is a kind of a clean pool of, we know where this comes from, and it's all copy CC0. Essentially no copyright, no intellectual property restrictions. Do you see that as a really key thing that open source can do, like create valuable pools of very large amounts of data, image, content, audio?
Definitely. And the audio side is interesting as well, but we know podcasting is here to stay, and it's growing. It's a $70 billion a year business. There you go. There I go quoting figures, but I know that that's the right figure because I was reading something about it today from a podcaster. And I checked their source. But the point is that for web development per se, AI can help you, and this is the way I see it going for web development, is that you will effectively fill in a form. A very good friend of ours, and actually a contributor to Bertha.ai, is a guy called Mark Westgarden. He's possibly going to develop something around AI, but talking about forms, I can fill in a form and really describe what type of website I want. and I'll put in a couple of keywords or a couple of phrases or whatever, and I go through my form, and it will take me 10 minutes to fill out my form. And then I submit the form, and 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 minute later, I will have my yoga website with my yoga descriptions and my services that I offer at what price, and my contact forms, and maybe even my products already done, and the imagery for the products has already been generated by generative AI in a website. So literally at the click of a button, you can have a website built for you with AI. You then go in as the human editor, make it your own, put in your own proper name and address and contact numbers and all that kind of stuff. So for web development, for hosts particularly, it's something that hosts should be looking at, to be able to have that bit of extra USP. Especially WordPress hosts, we've got proprietary systems like Shopify and Wix and Squarespace to look at. There's 100% they're looking at ways of generative AI and how they can help people build websites. Right. There's a lovely product out there called Bold Grid that actually gives you all of the content anyway. You can build a website and then you go in and edit that website. But imagine if you could make that content from the beginning unique to you.
Right. Well, beyond the content too, the underlying structure of a site on the front end, there's the opportunity, I would imagine, we'd have to bring in an accessibility as something that is part of the AI skill set, and at least gets you to a level of adequacy, I guess, in its accessibility framework. But also, you're mentioning hosts. I'm thinking you could solve a lot of problems quietly that most client and most web hosting customers aren't going to know anything about, especially if it's a small setup. The way you optimize the site from the beginning for performance and security is really fundamental. And when people are doing that themselves, there's all kinds of things they can do wrong. But if it's kind of baked into your AI, there's this kind of deployment, and you're really giving kind of a best of breed version under the hood to people. I could see that being really useful. Is anyone have you seen examples of this sort of work being trialed, where we can kind of delegate a lot of that technical and design content, accessibility expertise to really just an AI that has the capacity to check off all those parts of your development?
Well, certainly it can do, but I mean, if you look at the Bertha.ai site, I think with PageSpeed Insights gives us a 95% rating on accessibility, which is pretty cool, and it's 90% of that copy was written by Bertha from questions that we asked. So, maybe it's the 10% that they don't like, that's made us not go 100%. But from accessible text perspective, readability, because AI is so young, and it is actually young, you're kind of looking at, I know they're saying, I don't know how you grade in the USA, but sort of 5th grader, 8th grader, 8th grader, whatever. That's the kind of language that it uses, because it needs to be accessible and readable and by everyone. So I think that's the way that OpenAI have done that. But then we're looking forward to a thing called GPT-4, which will be around about 2024, I think, which will be, rather than 10 billion items that it's scanned, it will have 1 trillion items, which is beyond a number that humans can really think about what 1 trillion is. So it will get better and better. And we're talking, because of this, we're talking about generative AI vis-a-vis text and images. Let's not forget that AI is in our life every single day. If you drive an electric car, doesn't matter what brand it is, there's AI there. It helps you with guidance systems. I had an electric car not so long ago, not a Tesla, which I could just put on auto drive, keep my hand on the steering wheel, but it measures where the car in front is, or if there's any obstacles in front, and it will brake and it will accelerate with the traffic. And though very simple, and keep me in line as well, keep me on the, if I'm on the motorway or the highway, it reads the center of the road, and so tells you when you're going off center, or will correct you. So that's AI as well. AI helps in medical. We've got all sorts of examples with COVID, with the mRNA virus that was developed in a year, and people are saying, well, how can you develop it in a year? So we use AI, rather than doing 1,000 examples of testing, data testing, we can do 1 million in the same time. So therefore we can do 10 million or 1 trillion calculations to say, yes, this would work. So AI has many, many advantages outside of what we're talking about. But if we're talking about generative text, I think that people are going to start writing books, writing informative stuff, funny stuff, songs, right from the off. You can write a song with GPT-3, and now there's places that it will write you the music to that song as well. It will give you an avatar, a realistic, kind of realistic looking, real human being avatar, speaking any language you like. With GPT-3 and OpenAI, if you want to, certainly on Bertha, if you want to write in another language, you just select the language that you want it to write in. You can paste the stuff in English, let's say, and ask it to output Norwegian, and it will do.
Right.
So translation is good. Research, if you ask it for a website address. So this is where GPT-3 chat comes in, and people are worrying that it might replace search engines. Yes, it will. Ironically, if you ask GPT-3 chat, what is the best search engine, it will say Google, which is really funny.
Yeah,
because Microsoft are a major investor in it. So it's just, I did it this morning. It was just, I've got a screen grab. I can prove it. But it just struck me as being quite funny that it said Google was the best search engine. Well, so it can make mistakes, right?
Well, Microsoft's investing a lot more now, so maybe it will change its mind on that.
And that's another point, actually, Dan, is that maybe it will change its mind. You see, the one of the things that people are worried about, and genuinely worried and genuinely concerned about, is the bias. So how do you take bias out of an AI? It's very, very difficult, because it's trained by humans, right? And we've all got our own biases. So I think Google is the best search engine. Other people will say Yahoo or Bing or another, or DuckDuckGo. It depends. It's an opinion, isn't it? So everything written is always an opinion.
Sure. Yeah, I don't think it would solve the problem of competition and bias. Which plugin should I use for this? But those are always contested questions and change every 6 months. Or what's the what kind of programming style or procedure should be used at this point? Anything with tools that could be very useful if the knowledge that we find so hard to keep up with is delegated largely to machine learning, and you've got something like ChatGPT there to tell you, well, we did it this way before, but that all needs to be refactored. This is how we do it now, with a lot of legacy code, which is a thing for WordPress. Could we get an assist from machine intelligence on helping with backward compatibility problems and things like that? On the development side, how close in time do you think we are where all developers are, and people who are just trying out a new concept, what is, proof of concept for a product idea, and then actually starting to work it out, or doing security, evaluating for security, accessibility, all those more unique and complicated. Each individual case might be different. Is that happening yet, or are we a ways off from?
Well, no, certainly you've got OpenAI Codex, which is code, and all that. And there's a bit of controversy around there, because we're all open source. We're into open source, and it doesn't give an attribute. it doesn't give an attribution or it doesn't attribute the source of where you got it. You can actually ask it, say, you know, write me a hello world hook for WordPress and tell me where you got it, right? And then it'll give you a little citation there, so you can say, right, okay, I got it from wherever. You know, Stack Overflow have said we're not allowing any generative AI stuff in here for the minute. So there's a few guys suing OpenAI at the moment, saying, you know, you got to find some way to give someone credit, which is fair enough and reasonable, because, you know, open source is a license. Let's not forget, open source is still a license.
Yes, it's
not a license just to go off and steal code. It's a license to say it's open. You can do what you like with it, but you got to say Andy Palmer wrote this. You know, thanks. You just got to say thanks in some way. So I mean, I do know a lovely guy who's building imaging. .ai, and it's a beautiful product, and he's just concentrating on the images, and I know that he used AI to help him write the code to produce the stuff that's coming out. So he's using a different model in as much as he's actually doing he's teaching the models around what he wants to do, but he's doing that via Python, which is the language of AI. So anybody, you know, out there that wants to get into AI, learn Python first, right? That's the thing you've got to do, because everyone's using Stability AI, use Python. All of the Open AI is Python. So you've got to know it works with WordPress obviously and PHP, and you can do commands and stuff. But if you get into deep learning of Python, you'll be cracking it in AI, and you'll keep a job. And that's the thing about AI. It's going to replace all these jobs. Actually, it's not. It's going to make more jobs. There's no doubt about it. If you're a coder, you've got a brain for coding, and you don't know Python, then my recommendation is go out there and learn Python. Just as it was Matt Mullenweg's recommendation at Boston WordCamp when it was first starting talking about Gutenberg. He went out and said, go out and learn JavaScript, right? Which he meant React. So because of blocks and stuff like that. So, you know, we've all got to make progress. And some people don't like making progress. You know, the Luddites of this world, this technology is going to kill my job. It's going to be, you know, whatever. Yeah, but do you know what? It might kill your job. You know, did television kill theatre? No. You know, did cinema kill television? No. Or did television kill cinema? No.
Well, that was, I really thought it was a brilliant point, and in the perfect quotation where Matt brought up the Picasso saying that he was actually talking about calculators. I ran that down a bit, and he's actually a famous, difficult modernist poet who put that in one of his big works where I'm not sure where it actually comes from, but supposedly Picasso was talking about calculators in the 1960s, and they're of no use because they only give you answers and not questions. And questions are really about constraints. And because to frame a good question, it's not just why, right? You know, you go from kind of the big open child wonder of why this to answerable questions, something based on something we already know, or being able to narrow the scope. And that's actually really difficult. Forming a good question, you know, people doing that for a research project, dissertation or something, you spend a year, you could spend months trying to refine that question that you're going to then pursue. That seems to be where it would be amazing if you could get original thought like that out of a machine, but that's it's exceptional human work to be able to do that. So what do you think the questions are that we ought to be asking the people who are looking for opportunities? Even you're just starting out, or someone is the classic one-person product developer. It probably seems really daunting to go against, to try to find opportunities in what seems like a race that much bigger entities are so far ahead on. Does AI actually, OpenAI, give you some kind of parity then, where you can take refine your original concepts and find some niche product or service that you could maybe bring to market more quickly. Where's the opportunity for people who are in that product
Well,
space?
I think just to have a look around. I mean, if you're on Twitter, you can just search GPT-3. There are loads of Chrome extensions coming out at the moment, and they're niching right down. So there's a Chrome extension to help you write better emails. Bertha does that, of course, and other AIs do that as well, but it's very specific. There's your Chrome extension. And I don't know how they're monetizing that, even if they want to monetize that. There's some WordPress. I mean, let's go back to Contact Form 7. I don't think that guy's ever charged money for Contact Form 7. And there's millions of people that use it. It's crazy how good that is. And just even if he got 1 cent, he'd be a very, very rich person, But the key is that have a look around. I'm not sure that Bertha.ai is an original idea, and I'm not sure whether we're following or we're leading. And it's very difficult to know whether you're following or leading, certainly in AI, because if you take music, for instance, Mozart said there's only 12 notes. It's just a mixture of 12 notes or 12 chords or whatever it is, because and if you took in fact, they did an examination with AI. They took 1,000 songs and said, tell me the similarities between these songs, and they pop songs. And I think it found 350 were basically the same structure, So you've got different ways of approaching the same problem, which is content generation. I don't know how to say this in a Facebook post, so therefore let AI tell me how to describe my leather boots that are designed for the winter and not necessarily California, right? So you come around with a product description. Tell me how to build a Raspberry computer. It will tell you how to do that, because that's common knowledge. And it will tell you how to do that in different ways, in slightly different ways. It might rephrase it. It might take the information from a different place or whatever. When you're looking at what AI can do for you as a product developer, if you're a forms developer, you definitely need to look at AI. If you are if you're Canva, for instance, you need to look at AI. They've put in AI now in Canva. I think Gravity Forms have AI. They developed AI so that people can ask generative questions and fill in the blanks. I'm trying to think of something else. So mainly Chrome extensions. There's about, I don't know, within the last 3 days, there's 20 Chrome extensions that have been launched around different aspects.
Right.
Bing themselves, is going to add AI to the search engine. Microsoft will inevitably add AI to Outlook online, and I don't use it, so PowerPoint online as well, and Excel. It'll help you build formulas, really complex formulas as well. This is stuff that it can do now that people should be looking at. How can I make that helpful? There's a guy out there that's doing phenomenally well, just helping people do interior design with AI. So coming up with concept, then coming up with the blueprint, being able to send it off to your architect. He's doing fantastic. So he's found a way, he's found a niche that people love. We all love knowing what our houses are going to look like or our homes are going to look like. So I'm going to use generative AI to, one, produce the image, then maybe recognize the image or find me something similar to that image, attach a product to that, give me a price, and price out that interior design, how much it's going to cost me for my living room or my lounge or my dining area to look like that. What's it going to cost? And it will tell me where to buy it. So those are those kind of things. Product descriptions are awesome. You can describe things in such a way. I was again one-on-one with a customer. I love talking to people about this and how to use Bertha properly. And this guy was selling products that help people that grow CBD products so that they can grow them better, right? So how do you describe that in a really professional way? Bertha.ai helped him describe that in a really, he's got 200 products, and he says every time I add a product, it's just Bertha's doing the product description. And because he owns the product, he knows that what she's saying is true or not, or he can edit it to that benefit. You know, palette racking this morning. I mean, what do you know about palette racking? I know less than 1% about palette racking, but Bertha knows some stuff about it. So I can write a blog around palette racking. Great, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's actually, yeah, that kind of centaur idea. If it takes a first draft at something, it could be architectural renderings or any kind of mock-up. Even if you don't know much about it or anything, you do then, and it's a nice icebreaker to, yeah, I've done that in the process of error correcting something that ChatGPT has written. You learn more yourself, and then there becomes this symbiosis of back and forth.
And
Like
that is a thing. I think I can't remember his full name, but Neil Grass or whatever. He's a thought leader out there, space and all that kind of stuff. He said the concern is that AI will stop us learning.
Yeah,
but actually, right. I disagree with that completely. I think AI will help us to learn. Just like you said, I didn't know anything about this. Now I know something about it. I can get where he's coming from a student, say he was talking from a university or a college perspective, where I've just written a thesis or an essay and GPT-3 has built that for me, or an AI has built that and done all that, and I submit it. What have I learned? Nothing. So therefore, right. Am I dumbing down? Maybe. You know, yeah. Lazy people will dumb down. There's no doubt about it. If I'm feeling inherently lazy, then I'm going to ask GPT-3 to write my essays for me. Sure. But if I'm using it with care and attention, with a desire to help other people as well learn better, then I'm going to continue learning with it as well, and it'll help me educate myself. And that's the way I prefer to think of AI. Sure. If I'll leave the lazy people to get dumber, I've got no problem with that. But if you want to go the other way and actually use it for educational purposes within yourself, as well as your client base or your customer base or your educational base, then yeah, AI is going to help you do that.
Yeah, I'm coming around to that. Since I mentioned to you that I've taught first year university students at different points at many different universities, where you're trying to get out from the tyranny of what we had North American 5-paragraph essays everyone's taught in high school. And it's already so formulaic and mindless that the key is trying to get people to feel confident that they have an original, unique set of questions and interests and passions. And if you can ignite that, they'll do something different and original and above. But honestly, the average you get is something like what GPT-3 does. And that's fine. If you want to be average, if you want to work with machines as tools as we always have, maybe it raises the bar a bit, and you don't have to read sentences that just don't function, but you've got some workable stuff and you can instantly tell if I've asked a poor question to GPT-3, it sounds like a student essay. Well, maybe this, maybe that. Tries to sound very confident. It's got some wrong answers. And but if you feed it if it's got good information in it and you feed it some precise questions, you start to learn from it and start editing back, refining that question. And that's basically all that matters in the writing process and in a creative iteration.
I think, Jamie from Poodle Press, sorry to interrupt you there, but Jamie Marsland from Poodle Press, very intelligent. Mm-hmm. And he's making waves in Gutenberg and things like that. But I try to remember what his tweet was. It was, the more human you are now and in the future, the more unique you will be because of AI.
Yes.
So keep your uniqueness, use AI as any tool, as a spade to dig a hole, as a fork to eat your food, as a knife to cut your bread. Use it as a tool to benefit you and the people that you want to pass that knowledge on to. And as long as you keep that within mind, yes, you're going to get the students that are going, right, I need to write an essay on William Shakespeare and I just don't know about, was it to be or not, or I can't remember. And you can write your synopsis on one of his famous plays. or you could write a play yourself, but will it be interesting? Will it be engaging? Will it be entertaining? Possibly not. You know, will it be the normal formulaic stuff that you're talking about? Because that's all AI knows, right? When we get into the GPT-4 and the GPT-7 and then GPT-10 or whatever, when AI could actually build us a house on its own, which is both a scary and a nice thing to think about as well, then maybe we got to start worrying about where it's taking us as a human level. Is AI going to, and I've thought about this a lot, is AI going to get more intelligent, or are humans going to get dumber?
Well, that's a choice.
Because of AI. No, because of AI.
Yes.
So will our perception of AI being more intelligent than us change because we're actually getting dumber, because we know less, right? So
sure.
that's where we could go. Is AI should maybe do that if we kept our intelligent level, or, you know, in a kind of level, and we would be doing that. But if we start dumbing down, AI is going to be doing that, and we're going to remain static. And that's the key: is use AI to educate yourself as well as educate other people.
Yeah, well, I feel it would be a choice, and that some people can, you know, you can go either way, and it does tend to be there's more exceptional thinkers, or people who are just exceptional in their field, and but there's the group, the collective, that really has a huge impact as well. My understanding of how machine learning works is it's almost like an artificial, very fast peer review process, where one is vetting the answers of, you know, so here's 10 guesses, educated guesses, as what should come next in this sentence. And then the other algorithm is picking and saying, this is probably your best one. And then the other's learning. Is that roughly?
It's deeper than that. It's actually letter by letter. It's crazy, crazy how it works. It's kind of, you know, like you and I will string a conversation together, like we're stringing a conversation together. I have no idea what I'm going to say in 10 seconds time. And I've said this on other podcasts, so I don't want to bore people, but I don't know what I'm going to say in 10 seconds time to the question that you're going to ask me. I have an idea, so therefore I'm going to spout out whatever I come out with. AI is exactly the same. It doesn't have a clue. It really, you've asked it a question, so okay, and then you ask it to continue, goes, okay, so it reads back what it's already read, and then prints out what's in context to what it's already said. Just like us. I don't start talking about AI and then in the next question I start talking about donkeys, because it's irrelevant to the conversation that we're having, right? So, and that's what AI is doing. It's just referencing itself all of the time.
Yeah.
Now, currently, it can only do it to a level of 3,000 words back. So once you get past that 3,000 words, then it stops and carries on. It's already carried on, but it will only go back to the nearest 3,000 words to keep the context there. So in the end, it's going to run out of relevance. And that's where it's difficult for very, very long form. I did an experiment. I put it on LinkedIn, and I didn't change one word or one full stop, but I basically produced a 4,000 word document on SEO best practices.
Sure.
In 10 minutes.
Nice.
But yeah, I didn't change a word. I just put it out. I said, this is an experiment. This is what it's all about. It's on a blog out there, and I'm seeing whether or not Google likes it or not. And we'll see in 3 months' time where that's on the search engines.
Well, yeah, I think that aspect of machine learning being essentially how we do it, that you don't know what's coming next, and the more that you go down, you know, through iterations of finding better and better answers, and in response to others with some other algorithm or some other consciousness, or all three of these, people, machines, refining those answers, it's really just speeding up what we've been doing on the internet or in any kind of reserve of human knowledge, libraries, books, for a long time. And that being able to work with a tool like that ought to be able, if you want it to, if you know how to do it, if you know how to work with it. And I can see all kinds of educational possibilities for this: teaching coding, teaching writing, design. Here's something that doesn't do the
Finding the
work
cure for
for you.
cancer. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it sets a bar, and then, well, now we now elevate it to the next level by refining further what we're getting. You know, it's there's so many grunt tasks that should be
There are, but
delegated out.
imagine having everything, say today, as of today, you have an AI that has the total sum of all human knowledge in it. Imagine having that facility,
Right.
which is where AI is going to go. It's going to, at that moment in time that you've asked it a question, it has within its databases and data banks, rather, or servers, it has the sum of all human knowledge. That's going to be an incredibly powerful tool, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
It is going to give us the cure for cancer. It'll give us the cure for common cold, but nobody will let us do it because the pharmacists will go broke. You know, but
Right.
you know, this is the power of AI. It's going to give us back power to do whatever we like in life, hopefully morally. You know,
Sure.
and that's the key, is that how do we keep this? You know, there are controls within OpenAI for bias. There are controls for NSFW stuff in image generators and stuff. People are trying to bypass those for various nefarious reasons. So we've got to be able to keep it morally balanced, if you like. There's space for hate speech. There's space for nice speech. You need to be able to have not censorship, but you have to have certainly some kind of moral ground with who's to say what's moralistic, but you know, you have to have some kind of control under there that is acceptable to the general human population, let's say.
Right.
So you know, and if you're a writer, you know, some of the Stephen King's novels, for instance, I can't read because they are so graphic and they're so, and I have to have a fairly good imagination. I can't read it, so I'm self-censoring, you know.
Right.
With AI, the danger is that there won't be any censorship there at all. So we have to be very careful what we do with AI and what we do with generative AI, not what we do with AI. What AI, the information that AI can spew back to us as well. We have to be careful of not censoring. I'm not a particular believer in censoring, but you know, you've got to be careful about what you put out there, whether it's your own words or whether it's AI generating the words. So we have to watch that side of it as well.
I'm sure there will be a dark AI side of, you know, the dark internet.
Oh, there is now.
Absolutely. There is now. Yeah, already there's you know, using it as assist for malicious coding, and but I still think probably as always, the interchange between competitive agendas advances knowledge and ability. We have to deal with that. Then we learn something in the process. That's fascinating.
Well, I think it will help where it will help, and I think that you know, Liquid Web particularly, and other hosts that have bought plugins and stuff like that. So let's say, for instance, you have not a badly coded plugin, but not a plugin that's not been coded quite well,
maintenance
or well enough. Yeah, you can get AI to examine that code and say, how can that be better? And it might actually change the hooks. It might actually change a bit of a PHP command or whatever it might be, but it will make it better and more efficient, and therefore make the website that it's on more efficient in terms of, and also it will help you as hosts. You know, we're all talking about, you know, being a little bit greener. Imagine if you have AI that can examine your 20 years hosting history and tell you what types of websites are causing the CPUs to overload, are therefore causing you to be less green than you could be. You could then address that pretty much instantly. Yeah. Imagine getting AI to be able to transfer websites to a new IP address automatically on shared hosting, because we know hosts like shared hosting. We don't particularly as users, but once a site goes over 5% CPU on shared hosting, it affects the rest of the sites, or it's throttled. Hosts deny it, but it is. We know
Right.
that's the truth. So it could help with throttling. It could help with load balancing. It could help with all sorts of things. It could help with rediverting to a new CDN if that CDN is getting a little bit
Right.
overpowered by a website that all of a sudden has got 1 million hits a minute. It could help with definitely it could help with DDoS attacks and
Right.
mitigating those, because it could analyze where those DDoS attacks are, or when they're happening, why they're happening, and where they're coming from, and immediately divert traffic to a place where the DDoS attack would make no difference at all.
Yeah, I believe Cloudflare has essentially done all of that with their turnstile replacement it's kind of a no CAPTCHA replacement. They wanted to get away from Google's now monetized and privacy questionable reCAPTCHA and they moved on to more open source
HCAPTCHA. Yeah, it's great.
And then now they've got their turnstile, which is using machine learning to make very smart, educated guesses on human versus machine.
Well, I didn't know it worked like that.
Yeah, so that you do get more efficient. I think their numbers at one point, they were, they don't want to present you with that annoying CAPTCHA if they can help it. So this is bringing it way down. So maybe 9% of people at one point in the past, they were challenging. I think efficiency on firewalls and things like that, more security, less hassle for you. And those are one reason. There's our security product, iTheme Security Pro, is switching over to those for those reasons. It's just machines detecting who's the machine versus the human is something that we'd really like to be a seamless process, and not have that bad interface experience when you're asked to prove yourself time and time again.
Yeah, it's a nuisance when you get, well, the I am a robot or I am not a robot click. That actually drops a cookie on your computer and actually show, so that examines your history to show that you have been a normal computer user. And that's how that happens, which is a bit horrible, right? Because that's almost that's an invasion of privacy, really, because it's kind of seeing your internet activity without you realizing. So that's kind of how that tells you that that tells the computer that you're not a robot. It is ironic that you are, robots are now asking us to prove that we're human rather than the other way around. But with web security and iThemes, and that's quite a big product there, and and it's a well-used product. But if you use AI to improve the efficacy and the efficiency of your web server security or your website security, then that's going to be a massive improvement on usability and user experience, which is what we're all about, aren't we? The quicker you get to a website, the quicker you're going to buy something, right?
Yeah, definitely on the security front. It's very interesting. I've got questions, friends at PatchStack with their really exciting things that they're doing, where being able to analyze, there's a theoretical exploit vulnerability here. Is it being actually exploited? And then if we're accumulating knowledge of and in these patterns and from these sources, there's a lot you can do in proactive defense. Then that's the kind of thing that they're working on. So that's really exciting to be able to have this kind of computational power there as a tool, as a partner to be able to solve hard problems quickly for us. But well, thanks for all the knowledge sharing and the conversation here, and the back and forth makes me smarter. But what would be the things you would like to leave, say your people working professionally and in WordPress, specifically maybe product development, engineering, software engineering. What would it be? Learn Python deeply? What are the things that they should be
well, first of all,
seeing?
embrace AI, because it ain't going away, right? So
Right.
just get rid of your biases as a human being. So this is going to cost me a job. Make it your job to make yourself better. Learn Python. Use AI to help you learn Python as well. It's the language of AI, it's certainly the interface of AI. So use that. Do some deep learning. It's not going to take you long. There are, if I say that literally over the last 3 days, there's 20 Chrome extensions using AI. It's pretty easy to get a hold of. We're not rocket scientists here. We're WordPress developers. We started thinking about it in May of last year, 2022. We launched a viable product in September. The product's getting more and more viable now. So, we're a year down the line, September 2022. So we're adding more, and we're doing more for less as well. So there's no limits to what you can do with AI within our world as the web. You can do anything you like, literally, like this guy making, I know what he was saying, he's doing 15 grand a month MRR on an interior design AI, come on. And that wasn't around last year. So he's obviously had to learn that, right? And program that and make it work. You've got other people out there that are doing things absolutely free, a little Chrome extension to help you write a better email.
Sure.
That's all it is. That's literally all it is. And he's doing that she's doing that actually rather for the benefit of people rather than the benefit of themselves. So, you can still have an open source mentality, because OpenAI certainly is open source, but there are other AIs out there. Microsoft have got a few going on there. Google will release their own generative AI APIs as well. So you can build on the API and go to open.ai and look at developer tools, see where you're going to be going, and really just take yourself to the outer limits of AI, because you're going to love it, and it's going to be awesome for the next 10 years. It's going to be fantastic. I'm really excited about it.
Great. Yeah, it's a big spur to learning. I don't see how you don't learn from any encounter with any other kind of intelligence. And it's not a hands off the wheel type of thing. It's a spur to new questions and learning. And well, thank you for that. That's a great conversation. I appreciate it.
Well, it's nice to speak to you, and I'll see some of your team. Hopefully, you're going to be in WordCamp Asia.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. I won't be this time around, but well, first, that's I'm glad that they've got that going, and I look forward to seeing WordCamp on every continent. I think that's still a great near-term goal.
Talking about AI, it's all humanity. It's great to actually meet these people, face to face, isn't it? It's always
it is.
thing. Brilliant.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.